Welcome to the Sports Card Talk Show. Sports Card Talk Show with Kevin Anderson and Lorn Walker, the SkoL Brothers.
Welcome to episode 112 of the Sports Card Talk Show. We got a little Friday night interview slash series that we have going. We just haven't had him on for a while.
Yeah. Our SkoL brother, Soulbrotha, Finn, is going to do his little. We like to do this about once a month, but it never really works out all the time. But it's a little segment we like to call Soulbrotha Speaks. So
yeah. You can find him on Instagram, Soulbrothacards, and great content over there. And we love his perspective. And
he's always got great perspective on the hobby. He pushes you to think about things a different way sometimes.
Right.
So I always enjoy reading his posts.
Should we try and do a little trivia real quick?
Yeah.
All right. See what you can come up with.
I need to finish out the week strong.
In 2011, who was promoted from the AHL's Houston Aeros to become head coach of the Wild?
That's got to be shoot, I feel like this is almost too. I feel like I got this one wrong already, but I'm thinking Mike Yeo.
No, that's right.
Oh, wow.
In what year did the Twins begin playing their home games at the Metrodome?
1981?
2.
Oh, gosh.
What Twin Cities native played center for the Vikings from 1998 to 2008?
Matt Burke.
Yep. Who served from 1999 to 2009 as the first ever GM of the Minnesota Wild?
Oh, damn it. I feel like this goes back to another question we had.
No. I don't even know who this guy is, to be honest with you.
I feel like this guy was just a coach. Wait, I'm gonna say shoot. I feel like I know his name, but I can't bring it up. Go for it.
Doug Riseborough.
Nope, didn't know the guy's name at all.
Me neither. Awesome. Well, should we dial him up?
So that's two out of. So I finished the week at exactly 50%. That's terrible.
You'll have chances to redeem yourself.
Yeah.
Should we dial it?
Oh, yeah. Let's do it. Ring-a-ling ding dong.
All right, we got Finn dialed up. Soulbrothacards on Instagram. How you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me on again.
What's our topic going to be today, Finn?
An interesting one, considering I've never actually submitted a card, but grading. And I thought we would talk about why I haven't ever chosen to grade a card and what cards are actually good candidates for grading.
Sure. That sounds good, man. It's
seems to I thought it was timed well with your guys' recent experience with grading. So
we it's something that I've wanted to do forever, but the money you spend to grade cards takes money out of your wallet that you could otherwise be spending on more cards. So
exactly. It's hard to spend on accessories when you just want the main thing.
I hate spending money on supplies. So you know, I hate buying penny sleeves and boxes and top loaders. So spending money on submission was something that we just decided to do. It was time to do, and hopefully, the cards I submitted, I'm hoping I get some good grades and I can move some of my lower graded cards that I already have purchased.
So did you guys submit on your own or with a group submission?
We did it on our own this time. I think the cards that we submitted this time, I submitted 3 Fran Tarkenton rookie cards, and
cool.
I submitted them because, quite honestly, I I'm scared that they may or may not be authentic, and that's one real good reason why to get your cards graded, to verify that they are authentic cards and not some reprint. They look legit.
Yeah.
So all the cards I sent in were vintage.
Okay.
Part of the reason that we did it too is they're known, SGC is known for vintage. I believe that's what Lauren was saying. You know, they're well respected in that. And he had some vintage that he wanted to authenticate and grade, obviously. And it seems like the big thing is they're moving into the modern a little bit more. So I sent in some more modern cards. Some, you know, a LeBron rookie, a couple Jordans from the 90s, and then some real recent stuff. Just to see how it comes back, basically. And
we were going to go through a group submission, and like I said, the cards that I was submitting, whenever you use a third party like that, and I've been burned by people that I fully trusted. So whenever you're dealing with somebody that, let's pretend these cards come back not authentic, then you know, just playing devil's advocate, you know, got the devil on your shoulder saying maybe that person switched out your cards, and so you don't want to put that kind of you know, especially on a relationship you're just building. You don't want to.
I understand if you have the doubts about the authenticity and it comes back inauthentic, and I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, so and that's something I'm worried too, is that in going forward we might be kind of forced to start grading our cards for authenticity. Even cards that you know are authentic, it seems that the capability to create counterfeits and the desire to create counterfeits is going up as the market shoots up. Yeah. You know, it's becoming more financially viable to create counterfeits and good ones. And so that's something that concerns me, is that going forward, grading might become kind of necessary. And I'm not sure that BGS or PSA or SGC are equipped to detect counterfeits.
Yeah, it's,
you know,
I actually bought some. I have a legitimate O-Pee-Chee Wayne Gretzky rookie card, which I should have sent that in. Like after we did it, I'm like, oh man, I should have sent my Wayne Gretzky in, because that thing has a potential to be worth thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm thinking football almost 100% of the time, so that didn't even cross my mind when we were prepping cards. But I ended up getting some Wayne Gretzky reprints. They were advertised as reprints, but I thought these would be cool to have, just to, you know, I don't know that I'd really want to display my Wayne Gretzky card out in the open for anybody to see, and possibly so, you know, if you ever put up a display case, I've got Michael Jordan reprints. I've got Honus Wagner reprint. I've got, you know, I've got reprints of all, like, the holy grail cards of hobby, because I don't want to have those cards, you know, my Wayne Gretzky out for someone to be, you know, have sticky fingers and it disappear. But,
yeah. So wait, do you own a Honus Wagner, a non-reprint?
I own the reprint. Yeah, dude.
Oh, okay. Not an original.
No. So, okay. But I got these reprints, and I'm like, I actually emailed him, and I'm like, wow, you did a really good job on these. And he goes, I actually got the original card stock that they were originally printed on whenever I printed these. That's why they look so good. And
wow.
And I thought that was really, really cool that the seller was like even saying, yeah, I could have probably made a lot more money by printing.
Yeah.
He was really transparent in the fact that, yeah, these are reprints and they look so good because I used original card stock that O-Pee-Chee was using back in 1979 to print these. He was able to get, managed to be able to get his hands on the original card stock for those cards.
That's simultaneously cool and scary, because, you know, I imagine not everybody is going to be as kind and honest as that individual you ran into.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned that you would tell us why you don't do the grading thing and or buy them, or so to speak.
There's a couple reasons. I would say originally the biggest is I was always raised that, like a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. You don't own it unless it's you have it in your hand. And having seen a lot of people's experiences with grading, it can be a long, frustrating experience. And it's also very costly. Even if you go through the group submissions, and I understand some people enjoy the protection that grading provides and they enjoy the way it looks on display. But for me, it's a prohibitively expensive way to display your cards. Like Lorn was saying, I would rather have the cards than have lesser cards in a case. And so that's always really stopped me. But I've seen a lot of kind of horror stories regarding especially PSA and BGS and never getting a card back or waiting years to get a card back. This hobby is very, I guess, fickle in a way. Card prices go up and down and up and down and up and down, especially during the season. Within a matter of months, you can see a card gain $100 in value, then lose it all back. And by the time you get that card back from PSA or BGS, there's no guarantee that card's worth any money anymore. You just spent $10 grading a card that just became $5. And $10 is just the original price. That's not including the shipping or if you ask the person to clean it for you. And to be honest, it seems like those group grading services are the best services to use. I can't prove it, but I would imagine PSA and BGS are financially incentivized to give higher grades to people that submit more cards.
I mean, I've heard rumors of that. SGC has always had a really good reputation in the vintage world. They've been around longer than Beckett has, and they've made the jump into modern. And the reason why they are exploding right now is because their turnaround time is 20 to 30 days. People are getting their cards back in a month.
Oh, wow.
Which is propel, and PSA and BGS have been shut down since the Corona, right, Kevin?
Yeah. Well, or working at a very reduced.
I think really slow. Yeah, they're just really slow, extra slower than usual.
Yeah, and they were already 6-8 months behind. By people are waiting 8 months to get their cards back. Mm-hmm. And like you said, I literally this was Teddy Bridgewater. The Vikings signed Kirk Cousins. Teddy Bridgewater was a free agent at the time. And if you remember that week or whatever, the Vikings were cutting ties with Sam Bradford, Case Keenum, and Teddy Bridgewater to sign Kirk Cousins. So there was a musical chairs of quarterbacks at that time. Teddy Bridgewater's cards were going through the roof. And I had one specific card at that time that was going for over $100. That the SP Future Watch card is numbered out of 999. I have quite a few of those, and I did not. And Kevin's like, you gotta sell, and I'm like, everybody's selling. I gotta wait. Well, he signed with the Jets, and those cards went way down. Went from over $100 to like people couldn't hardly give them. Actually, I think a graded 9 just sold for like $15.
Wow. Yeah, and even in the off season, that's the thing about the NFL is everything is so fast and it changes so quickly. Even in the off season, prices can drastically change.
Yeah. So if you were to send in a Teddy Bridgewater, thinking, because at that time, if you could get one graded, you were looking at a couple $100 to $300. So if you were like, oh wow, Teddy Bridgewater Future Watch is going for $100 raw. Wonder what I can get for a graded. And you said, by the time you got it back, you just lost yourself, $100 easily. So yeah. So you know, Kevin and I were even talking about. He showed me a new slab yesterday. Yeah, he sent me a link to a new slab. It looked really nice. But in order to break into that industry, it's so hard because everybody's like PSA or BGS. You know, PSA.
It's really annoying, actually, all the hatred that I see, because at SGC, I've noticed that they did move into modern cards, and honestly, some of the people promoting it are kind of come off as used car salesmen, which doesn't help their cause. But sorry, my daughter's walking in.
All right.
But no, I think it's obviously PSA and BGS aren't doing enough to provide each other with competition. And so it's nice to see another third company come in, and maybe it will shake things up, and maybe it will change what PSA and BGS are doing in terms of getting cards back and being consistent with grades. That's probably, I guess, the last big reason why I wouldn't choose to grade is I mostly collect modern cards, and by and large, modern cards are pretty damn similar in condition. There's not huge disparities in condition. You know, certain cards have more factory defects, or, you know, certain cards are more likely to get slightly more damaged in the pack. But for the most part, the difference in condition is so minuscule that I think it renders grading modern largely arbitrary. This idea that you can crack a card out of its case and then resubmit it for a better grade, that doesn't make any sense to me. The condition of a card shouldn't change.
That's
You know, if something's a 9 corners, how does it become a 9.5 corners? How do its corners get better? And I've seen that really often, especially with BGS. And it really turns me off, that idea that if you can just literally wipe a card down and mess with the corners, like, that's not how condition works. Condition shouldn't be able to improve.
Well, it can easily improve. Like if you were to buy a card and it was like an 8 surface, and you're looking at it and you're like, oh man, if I crack this out and take a cloth to it, I can resubmit it, and it, you know.
Yeah. Well, I understand the idea of the surface having fingerprints, but I also don't get then why if it's something that's so easy to wipe off, I'm not sure why they grade on fingerprints. I don't know. But I've seen centering change. I've seen centering grades change. I've seen corners and edges grades change. Like, how does the centering change? How is that possible?
I was actually like, you know, while working this morning and knowing that this was one of the topics we were going to talk about today, I was just like thinking about how can you make, you know, grading not so subjective. And, you know, one person grades your cards. Why? Like, if let's pretend you're talking to Mark Cuban on Shark Tank, and you want to introduce a new, improved grading company.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you put that card through like 4? I mean, they say that these graders literally look at your card for a minute or two.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you have 4 graders look at your card for a minute or two and give it an overall, you know, like the Olympics, and everyone holds up their card saying 9 or 10, you know, for a diving competition or the pole vault or whatever, you know.
Well, that's what I don't like about BGS's doing the points, and I think PSA actually started doing 0.5s and stuff too, but it's just it makes it too subjective, you know, because it's like you're dealing with minuscule like fibers of paper at that point, and it just becomes too hard for each, you know what I mean? I think, yeah, I definitely do think they should do a consensus, or, you know, there has to be some sort of way to do it a little better, because it just seems so inconsistent. And for me as a collector, I don't buy cards to grade and to sell, so it's not worth it for me to get an opinion on a condition of a card that I don't care about and put it in a case that I don't like any better really than a mag.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that you are definitely you're our game used expert. And when it comes to you having a patch or a cleat or a helmet or whatever in your card, you're talking about a thicker stock card, and those are obviously more apt for chipping on it. You're talking about thicker stock.
Oh, for sure.
I would be really leery of ever sending a thick stock card in to be graded, because you're probably not gonna fare well on your grade. I mean, the encased is people are really upset whenever they open a box and they get an 8.5 on their slabbed card.
You can't even get a good grade on those things.
Yeah, well, that's because you're chopping that thick cardboard. It's probably it's coming out of the factory with chipped edges. So I'm always jacked whenever I win a encased 9.5 grade card on eBay. Like, I got it for the same price as an 8.5.
That's actually the only graded card I own. I own an encased auto.
Nice.
It is a 9.5 actually.
Yeah.
But that's also something I wanted to talk about with grading is I see people grading I don't want to say the wrong cards, but cards that don't financially make sense to grade. Unless it's really like Prism, Select, Contenders, which can be a tough grade. Those cards they're really thin stock actually is what hurts them, and they can bend and ding really easily. But unless it's, one of those few Contenders, Optic, Prism, Select, it's usually not a huge premium to grade the card unless they become a massive hobby name. So like Michael Thomas, this one I collect, and his graded really anything sells pretty well.
Yeah.
But say DJ Moore, the difference in his graded prices versus his ungraded prices for anything but the top few products is almost non-existent. And then I see things like I said, the kind of the used car salesman. What is that? Investacard. I'm not trying to blow up their spot or anything. I don't got a problem with what they're doing, whatever. But they do come off like used car salesmen, and the cards that they have graded by SGC, because they've been doing the SGC, right?
Yep.
The cards that they have graded by them seem to me to be the junk wax of this era, and like not even like some of the night. Like I even think a lot of autos from this era will end up becoming pretty much junk wax. A lot of mem cards from this era, but I'm talking like base cards, like base rookie inserts from Absolute that get like SGC graded. And I just don't get it. It's like you're spending 10 times more on the things around it than the card is ever worth on its own, and it just makes zero sense to me. And I think that's kind of, I don't really like that whole trend of it's completely market driven. There's really no collector interest in those cards.
I just wanted, you brought up the fact that the grade, getting it graded costs more than what the card is worth. I just won this Gym Mint 10. I don't know if. Oh wait, we've been holding up to the computer for so long, but.
It's just the shine. It keeps shining back at me.
Just tell them what it is, because the camera's too far away.
Okay, it's a Josh Rosen 2018 Panini Illusions Mystique Blue out of 149.
Okay.
Anyway, it's Gym Mint 10, and I won it for like $7 or $8. And it was the second card I won from that auction buy. So. The extra shipping was like 50 cents or $1, to have an extra card shipped. So I got that card for under $10, and whoever graded the card paid $10 to have it graded.
Yeah.
Any money off that card.
And there was a time maybe where it was worth having graded, but by the time he got it back, it wasn't.
And you're probably wondering why I'm buying a Josh Rosen graded card, but his cards are so like me and Kevin are also talking about, I consider myself, I want to invest to be able to sell some cards to make some money to buy the cards that I want. Of
course, that's the cycle of collecting even.
Yeah. You kind of want your hobby to sustain itself. So you're not always dipping into your bill money or whatever.
Yeah.
I had to explain to a friend that I just spend my it's not hurting me. They're like, oh, you buy a lot, you spend way too much money on cards. And I said, well, it's my discretionary funds. And they're like,
yeah.
Do you still owe money on your mortgage? Yeah. They're like, well, maybe you should be, taking that discretionary funds and paying off your house, or,
There's always something more responsible and better you could be doing with your money.
Yeah. But I mean, that's one thing. That was one of my biggest regrets whenever I first got into getting back into the hobby, was I wish I would have sold some of the, I wish my hobby would sustain my hobby.
Yeah, for sure.
But I always say I can always do it, but I haven't yet, and this is.
Yeah, well, it's hard to part with things too. And I've gotten to the point where I can, not completely, but largely, have it self-sustaining. But yeah, it's hard to part with things. And especially as players do succeed and really do well, and your investment actually pans out, it actually makes it harder to part with them.
I just listened to a podcast earlier, and they were talking about people that want to be investors, and they're like, what it really boils down to is if you buy cards and you never sell them, you're just a collector. And I can only think of this guy right here. Yeah. Until you sell a card, you're investing in anybody.
Once you realize, though, that it's like you can't acquire the cards that you want by keeping everything, that's when that's when it becomes a little easier to part with things.
Right.
Yeah, we do a show, one of our, I think we've had about 10 people come on with my 5 faves. And the thing is that for a lot of people, their 5 favorite cards is revolving. You get a card like 3-4 years ago and you're like, oh man, this is my favorite card. I'm never parting with this. Well, when you make an upgrade on that card, it's just an autograph of a guy you like. Well, the next thing you know, you get a way better autograph on card, short printed, looks absolutely beautiful on the card. And you're like, oh man, I can get rid of this other card now all of a sudden,
Yep. No, I've been there for sure, where it's, even if it's not completely self-sustaining, you can pay off part of your new purchase by getting rid of the old one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I see the allure or whatever to grading, and I see why people don't do it. I mean, I see both ends, and I'm not hardcore on either side. I mean, I get why people grade. I get why there's a push for it, because I sent in a LeBron rookie raw. It's 300. If it comes back good, it's 2,500. Yeah,
man,
I'm gonna grade it.
Yeah, that's the part that gets me, is when the grade itself adds more value than the card. I don't quite get it, but I mean, to each their own, and I've actually considered, going back to the investing stuff, I've actually considered picking up graded cards just because I wouldn't mind parting with them. And so as investments, because they don't fit on my display, so I don't mind, they're just going to go in a box anyway. They hold value better because they're graded. And usually they're cards that aren't game used, or, that I have real deep connection to. So they're easier to move. So I've actually considered kind of putting some money into a few graded cards kind of as investments. But like Lorn, I'll talk about it, but then actually doing it is kind of harder.
I sold cards just to prove that I could do it faster than he's going to sell one.
He just likes
I'm going to sell 10
to
your one is what I like to tell him. Because I hate.
I mean, it does make sense. The idea behind grading does make sense, that not all cards are the same. And you do want to differentiate between the ones that are in better condition. But I think by and large, the difference between a BGS 9.5 and a BGS 10 or a BGS, is so negligible and so arbitrary that it really all comes down to the grader or maybe even who you submitted with.
Yeah. Well, and that's evident by I'm going to crack it and send it into the other company.
Yeah. And I've cracked cards before to keep, just because I did want to display them. And usually I'll, if it is like that, I'll buy something that's like, I bought like a Kyler Murray BGS 8. It had a print line, which it didn't really bother me, but it saved me maybe like $50-$60 versus just a raw one. And like I bought a couple other cards, like a Michael Thomas Prism that was a PSA 9 that I cracked, probably about the same as I would have got it for raw. But yeah, I can't fit graded cards on display, so they end up having to get cracked. Yeah.
You actually,
you want to talk about the cracking process? Because I've never cracked a card. Sure.
Yeah. It's pretty easy. I would say the key to it is if you're in a rush, don't do it. If you're pressed for time, then save it for later. You're not in a rush. There's no reason to hurry through it. It's pretty simple. You basically get pliers or a wrench that, the adjustable wrench, and you put it over the top where the grading information is. Make sure you hold the card itself, the plastic itself, you hold over the card with your hand to make sure that's not the part that you bend as you crack. And you just kind of bend the plastic and crack it off. And once you get it open at a part, then you can take a screwdriver and run it and slide it under. And I tell people that's where you need to be the most careful, and you're really not in a rush. Just try to ever so gently slide that screwdriver underneath and slowly pop the two sides. It's really just two parts that are connected. So you just got to pop them apart from each other. And once you do that, you can just slide the card right out. I've done it successfully a few times with never having any issues with the damage. You do want to do it over a trash can, because sometimes you'll get that like plastic, glass, acrylic, whatever it is. It can be sharp and it'll crack. And sometimes, BGS is a little more crumbly. PSA is a little easier to crack. BGS crumbles a little more, from my experience. But I don't know. I haven't cracked that many. People that have cracked probably a ton of cards might have more specific experiences with each one.
Right.
But it's pretty simple, and as long as you're careful and you don't try to rush through it, it's a pretty easy process. Go on YouTube and look up one of the demos and just slowly follow along with them.
Biggest thing there is time, I guess, is what you're saying.
Be patient.
Be patient. Yep.
Be patient. I mean, it doesn't hurt the card. It's not like the card can't breathe in there. Like, it doesn't hurt being in there, so you can leave it in there as long as it can be, and just try to get it out. And it usually is only like a 10-minute process. But yeah, I just do try to emphasize, like, be careful and just, you're not in a rush. Take your time. Awesome. Don't stab the screwdriver in when you're trying to open it, just ever so slightly push it in and lift up.
Yep.
I feel like that long to clean each card when we clean them. We took our that when you're cleaning your cards, take your time with that too,
Did you damage any of the cards on accident while cleaning them?
No. I don't believe so. I hope not. I
always wondered about those big services that offer a cleaning service. I don't know. It just seems kind of, I guess when it comes down to it, whatever grade they get is what they get, and they can't, that's what they got. But I always wonder if, like, there's been a couple times where it's like, oh shit, I dinged this corner. Like, I'll just send it in anyway. And he'll come back with a 9.
Yeah. We know. So at least not that we know of. We were pretty careful.
Yeah, the trick is that when we were wiping, you wipe from the middle of the card out, both ways. And you start at the middle and you go the other way. So you're never coming across the edges.
So does SCG or it was SGC? Do they are they on 100-point scale?
They use they use the same
up to 10.
Up to 10.
Okay.
They use what's funny is they used to have like 88 and 96.
Yeah, that's what I remember it being, like vintage cards on 100-point scale.
Yeah, but then no one understood what those even so underneath it they would like give you the 8.5 or 9, whatever it equaled out to be to PSA. So they finally got rid of that 100-point scale and went to the 10-point scale.
Oh, okay. And now they can compete.
Yeah, and right away when they did that, I didn't like the big blocky numbers that they used, but I'm warming up to it. And they kind of do the same thing. They kind of have integrated both PSA and BGS into their deal. They don't give subgrades like BGS does, but they do. You can get a Gym Mint 10, and you can get a Pristine 10 that has like a gold label around the top.
Okay.
So,
I like their black. Cases actually. They're pretty nice.
I've always loved their black cases, and they've kind of got around the corners cut out so you can see the sharp edges on around the corners. Yeah, their black cases are definitely something that I've always appreciated with their cards or with their cases.
Yeah, theirs seems to have the best look to it of any. Although I like PSA. PSA is pretty clean. I'm not a big fan of the BGS. It's kind of like bulky, and they always got like the metal is always like off kilter and off center. Like the numbers that they put on it, they're always like falling off and stuff. And or I'll see the case itself is cracked and chipped, and it just. For a company that grades things on the condition and pristine qualities, you would think that they would want their cases to look more pristine and be in better condition. But it seems like, and I've seen PSA cases come back cracked too, but it seems like especially BGS with those little metal medallions or whatever you want to call them, they put on the cases that seem to slide off and they're all crooked. It doesn't seem like they take the time and care and effort into doing it.
I've got a couple like that. Most of mine look pretty good, but that's definitely and because they're made with like your like trophy plates. That's kind of what it's out of. And
that's probably the word I was looking for.
And it's engraved, so those things can always get scratched up. I always buy the PSA or the grading bags and put them in the graded.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've seen them come back from PSA or BGS the way that they shipped it cracked.
Speaking of damaged graded cards, this happened in the mail actually. I don't know if you guys seen this, but somebody's Jordan rookie got damaged in the mail. It was a graded card in a bubble mailer, everything, and it was I don't know what happened in the mailing process, but
that would be the worst. Do you guys read blowout forums?
I have read them. It's been a long time. They tend to be really, really negative, so I usually don't go on.
There was one I came across that intrigued me and just kind of made me laugh. So it was like a guy bought a PSA 9 Mahomes Prism rookie. And when he got it, there was a minor ding on the bottom edge of it. And he's like, well, of the Mahomes rookie, of the card itself.
Okay.
And he was like, man, should I return this? Like, the seller didn't say anything about this or whatever. And I was like, dude, you bought a PSA 9. Like, it implies that there is some minor issue with the condition of the card if you buy a PSA 9. Like, if you wanted a perfect condition card, then buy a PSA 10. And if that card had an issue with it, then take it up with PSA, not the seller. The seller, all he was doing was selling a card that was graded by And it's not his fault that PSA deemed that a 9. Like, if you want a pristine card, then spend the money to buy a pristine card. Don't buy a 9 and then complain that it's not as pristine as a 10.
I think people buy raw cards and get them.
Yeah.
And say,
well, and there's a user on Instagram that's always complaining about the condition of cards, and I just told him, like, dude, if you want pristine condition cards, then buy graded cards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're gonna buy cards raw, then you have to accept that there's gonna be some minor issues, probably with surface or edges or corners. You know, yeah, if you want a perfect pristine condition card, then buy one from PSA or BGS if you trust their opinion on it.
Right. Yep. I think we covered quite a bit on grading. Obviously, it's going to be a never-ending, you know, people.
It's one of the biggest hot button topics out there.
For sure.
Yeah, and I would love to see what people's comments and reactions are, especially people who have more experience with grading than I do. I'm coming from a position of, I mean, I've owned a few graded cards and I cracked most of them out of their cases, and I've never submitted a single one. So, you know, my perspective is different, I'm sure, than others.
Yeah, and we just did our first submission, and Lorn's bought a few. I recently just bought 2 graded cards, I think.
I've bought more than a few, but
well, mine was I wanted to make, it was an auto card, so I just wanted to have that graded about, I guess. It came graded, so that was good. And then the other one, I just liked it because it was a black case and it was the Kevin McHale rookie, so the black and the green all looked cool, and
yeah,
it was more how it looked than anything, really.
Yeah, well, that's what those SGC cases look good. Those black cases are nice. They match up with a lot of different card styles.
Yeah. So, well, we want to be mindful of your time, and we tend to push the 40-minute mark when we talk because we could talk forever. It's all good, though. But yeah, definitely in the comments, let us know what your experience is with grading and how you feel about it. And I'm sure we'll get some thumbs down on the whole
That's all good.
SGC.
we got a couple questions, like why SGC? Because apparently not everybody knows that SGC is on fire right now.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think a lot of it has to do with there's all card values are based on opinion, and opinions are based on inherent biases or beliefs or, you know, experiences. And in most people's experiences, SGC for a modern card doesn't mean anything. PSA and BGS mean everything. Mm-hmm. And also, like I said, a lot of people kind of pushing SGC can kind of come off as used car salesman-esque. And so it kind of, I think, there's a lot of pushback or hatred to it. But I know I don't think SGC is any better or worse. I have no idea. I've never experienced them, but I don't think they're any worse than PSA or BGS when it comes to their standards or their, you know, their grading expectations. And from what you've described, it sounds like they're a lot better with their turnaround times.
Yeah, we'll find out. We just submitted, and we already got a response that they have them. So
they have.
Yeah,
we're excited about that.
Yeah.
Step one.
The price advertised isn't the true price, though. We spent what, a third of the price in shipping, a third of our extra. You know, like
and do you ship with insurance?
Yes.
Yeah.
Insurance there and insurance back.
I can't remember.
We could have shipped without insurance, but we weren't sending that much. I mean, it's substantial value. We were sending it without insurance, I guess.
Yeah, it was like your choice to send it with insurance. I understand.
I actually just heard that somebody big, just in the last couple months, sent a card that got damaged in the mail, and it was a $27,000 card. No, I think it just got plain old lost. The buyer of the card never got it, and it was a one-of-one card. So there's only one out there. And
was that one that got auctioned for charity as like a Kentucky basketball one?
Yeah, I think so.
I read something about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the guy who sold it had to refund the other guy the whole $27,000. Hopefully he insured, you know, since it got lost, hopefully, you know, he had $27,000 worth of insurance on it that the post office had to pay that. otherwise he's out that. I mean,
well, I would imagine if you have the resources to be auctioning off a $27,000 card for charity,
Yeah.
You probably figured it. He probably made a profit off it somehow. Like, he probably figured out a way.
I heard on a podcast that me and Kevin both listened to, that the podcaster, he said a friend of his sold like a $700 card, and he, sitting at priority, it's already covered for $50, and he's like, I'll put another $100 on it. The card got damaged in the mail. He had to refund the guy the whole $700. So he was like $550 on the sale that came out of his pocket, because the post office covered the $150 that he insured it for, but not the other $550 that he didn't. So
yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, so whenever you get into those large number sales, it's better to cover your butt and cover.
Well, I know PSA and BGS, don't they cover their own by don't they have a max declared value for mailing in cards? I think you have to go in person if you have a card over whatever 1,000 max declared value to get it graded.
I'm not sure if you have to go in person. I know when we went through the process, you have to declare your value, because that's how they base how much your shipping is going to be, because they put it on the way back. So we finished it all. I'm like, well, where's our label? Oh no, that's the return postage you're paying. We had to go pay more to have the card insured as well. That's why, it ended up being like $50-something in just shipping charges.
Wow.
Yeah.
Back. So the little thing that you don't, I guess that's another reason why a big group submission would come in, because then you're spreading it up amongst a group of people.
Yeah, but I mean, they still got to mail it back to you, and you still got to mail it to them.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then if you put in the value in, that's how they're basing their shipping costs, because they got to put insurance on it to cover that.
Yeah. Yeah. At a certain point, people are probably spending more in insurance than cards are worth.
I don't know that anybody. You can go up to $250 and it's still going to fall under the $10 submission.
Yeah. I
don't know. Unless you're grading a card that is a $10,000 card, even the LeBron, I didn't put more than $250 on it.
Oh, okay.
If I were to, it's a chance I'm taking.
If I were to,
so now you're taking a risk.
Yeah, the difference between a PSA 8 and a PSA 9 O-Pee-Chee Gretzky is thousands of dollars. So how do you're going, gosh, this looks really, really good. I think it might look like a 10, Well, then you're talking, a 10 is going to fetch you hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't know what Gretzky. I think there's only been one PSA 10 Gretzky ever. And
well, have you read, there's an article where a guy broke it down like with the PSA grades, and it was like, for every, you could choose like kind of a random, he did like big rookie cards from like the 80s of like baseball players. And like, there would be, say, like 50 submissions of one card, and like 48 of them would be PSA 10s. But then for, say, like the Mark McGwire rookie or whatever, there would be 300 submissions and there'd be like 2 PSA 10s.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, is everyone sending in worse condition cards of this, or are they more strict on grading cards that have higher values depending on the grade? And I think they're more strict on grading certain cards.
Yeah, that's
it could be, but you're talking, kind of going back to our conversation earlier, you're going back to a time where, what year was that? His rookie, 85. Yeah. I was rubber banding my cards. How many cards are down? How many cards were thrown away in the vintage era?
Oh, for sure. But that's why I did it by percentage. When it was like, when it's 92% of this one random guy's cards come back at 10, and 3% of the big stars cards come back at 10, it kind of leads you to believe it might be a little harder to get a 10 for a Wayne Gretzky than for a, I don't know any hockey players.
Sure. Well, we rolled way past the 40-minute mark, so
all right.
Let's call this one a wrap. A wrap, yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on again, guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hang on the line for 1 second. We'll chat after we bring it to a close here.
Yeah, for sure.
Finn with SkoLBrothacards. Soulbrotha speaks.
SkoLBrotha.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.